Good evening and welcome to the Drive at 5 on IntellectualRadio.com/iHeart radio station. I'm your host, Roman, and we have a good show planned for you today. But first, the forecast from our IntellectualRadio.com Weather Center. Today, cloudy with a little accumulation of snow, not slow, but snow later this evening rather. High 31 degrees. Tonight, not as cold. This evening, mostly cloudy and windy with a couple of snow showers here and there. Low 29 degrees. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy and windy with a snow shower in spots. High 38 degrees tomorrow night. Some clouds with a little snow at times, mainly later accumulating to a coating of an inch of snow in some areas. Breezy, low 28 degrees. The rest of the week forecast looks like this. Wednesday, partly sunny and breezy, high 34 degrees. Thursday, partly sunny and very cold, high 24 degrees. And on Friday, cold with clouds and sun, high 26 degrees. The Drive at 5 is also part of the Monday Night Mogul with the Spiritual Hour at 4 p.m. Straight No Chaser with Rhea Ray Harris at 6 p.m. Monday Night Mingle with your girl Gina at 7 p.m. and Maze Says with Maze Jackson at 8 p.m. The Drive at 5 is also part of the fabulous 5 at 5, only on IntellectualRadio.com. Today, my guest is the pastor of New Beginnings Church of Chicago. He's also the CEO of Project Hood, acronym for Helping Others Obtain Destiny, and a community leader. Please give Drive at 5 welcome on the intellectual line to Pastor Corey Brooks. Welcome to the Drive, sir.
Hello. Thank you for having me on the show. I greatly appreciate it.
Now, please give IntellectualRadio.com/iHeart radio station a little bit of your background here.
Well, I tell people I'm a country boy. I'm originally from Tennessee, called Kenton, Tennessee. Population of about 2,000. I was stayed there with my grandparents on a farm till I was about 10 years old, and we moved to Muncie, Indiana. And I spent my teenage years and some young adult years in Muncie, Indiana, going to Muncie Public Schools, then graduating from Ball State University, which is also in Muncie. From Ball State University, I went to law school at the University of Florida for a year, and then I went on to Dallas Theological Seminary, and got called to pastor at a very early age, around 23. And I've been pastoring churches in Richmond, Indiana, and Chicago over the last, 24 years. So that's pretty much what I've been doing. We started New Beginnings Church 16 years ago, and it's a flourishing ministry where we're really focused on helping people to be the very best that they can be. And that's what I dedicate my life to, and that's what I do.
Chicago is plagued by violence. According to the Chicago Tribune, in Chicagoland, currently 50 homicides, 290 shooting victims. Analysts are predicting Chicago is headed towards breaking a new record in homicides and shootings compared to last year if this continues. Donald Trump says if the mayor does not fix it, he will send the feds. Reverend Jesse Jackson said yesterday, send the feds. As a community leader, what is your reaction to the high crime rate? And do you agree or disagree in sending the feds to Chicago, and why?
Well, it all depends on what you mean when you say send the feds. A lot of people have a lot of different meanings behind send the feds. If you're going to just send military personnel in to just do a job, then absolutely not. But if you're going to send military personnel along with all the other federal bureaus to help change the situation in Chicago, then I'm 100% for that. But not just military alone, but all the other federal agencies to help that. I'm for sending in the feds.
So in essence, you're saying it has to be some type of stipulation there, right?
In essence, I'm saying that I'm for the feds. I'm for sending in the feds, but I'm not for sending in just military personnel alone. There are other federal agencies that are available when you send in the feds that can help the situations of African Americans who are dealing with this crime, especially on the South Side and West Side. And so I'm not for sending one specific agency in, but I am for sending several agencies.
Do you think we're heading towards martial law, in your opinion? Are you thinking we're heading towards that direction? You look at the statistics here. You're talking about already, tomorrow is the last day of January. We are 290 shooting victims.
Right. I will say this, that we cannot continue to do what we've been doing. That absolutely is not working. And everyone sees that. It's for the world to see that it's not working. And so for so many years, we've been doing the same things over and over, trying to get different results. And the results are continuing to be horrible. We're continuing to fail our community. We're continuing to fail our people. And so I am for change, and I am for doing something different. And so I don't think we ought to continue down the same path of just trying to get more police. And I don't think that works. I think there needs to be a bigger agenda than just a policing agenda.
Okay, you mentioned instead of the policing aspect of it, what, in your opinion, you're saying not the same old thing, not the same old. In your opinion, does the mayor have a plan to effectively curb the violence here in Chicago?
Well, I would say this, if the mayor has a plan, it definitely has not been working. We've seen murders go up. We've seen shootings go up on his watch. So regardless of what he says and regardless of what he tries to make people believe, it is on his watch. And I tell people, even at my church, that everything rises and falls on leadership. When things are going bad, I cannot shun the responsibility and try to blame other people and other situations for my lack of leadership. And that the same holds true for the mayor. When things are going bad in the city, he has to take the responsibility. He is the mayor, and it is up to him to lead us into a better situation, because that's what we elected him to do.
So how would you rate his performance then?
Poor. I mean, you look at the Laquan McDonald case where there was absolutely a cover-up. You look at all these other police shootings where they've settled out of court, not just police shootings, but the culture that was created under his watch. I think we have to look at that and pay attention to that. I think we also have to pay attention to the lack of development in impoverished areas. We also have to look at the school system. They closed 50 schools on saying that the school system was going to be better. And we've seen everything but that, from lack of funding to young African-American males dropping out to poor performances. And so these things are part of the responsibility of the mayor to lead us in. And so as far as I'm concerned, I don't know how anyone else would feel about it, but as far as I'm concerned, he definitely has not been doing the job that is needed to lead a world-class city like Chicago.
What does he need to do, in your eyes, to move from poor to a little bit satisfactory?
Well, one, you got to have some development into these areas that are impoverished. You can't continue to let parts of the city flourish and other parts of the city continue to fail. That's the first thing. You have to figure out ways to enhance these neighborhoods. Secondly, you got to figure out ways to engage a large segment of the population, which includes young African-American males. They are totally being left out of the system. They are totally being left out of the picture, and they are being left behind. So I think a right and a moral responsibility is for him to make sure that those young men have opportunities in Chicago, and they don't at this point in time. So you got the economic development, you've got also education. We've got to do a better job with our schools, not just closing schools. That's not the answer, but making sure that all schools have the adequate resources that they need to be able to teach our children. I believe our children are being left behind totally. And so we need a mayor who not only economically looks after us, but looks after us educationally, and also providing better housing situations. You go in our neighborhoods and you'll see boarded up homes, you'll see people living on the fringes, and that just should not be in a great city of Chicago. So for me, the top three are economics, education, and housing.
According to the mayor's office, they say we have done all we could. We shell out money for mentoring programs. We are now proposing free housing for city workers. We are giving money, Whole Foods in Inglewood. What else do you want that people want to curb the violence here?
Well, you're still leaving out a large segment. You're leaving out the segment that needs the most impact. African American males between the ages of 19 and 35 are being left out. They are not a part of the solution. They're not being made a part of the solution. And for those individuals who lack opportunities and lack options, you're going to continue to see the violence be escalated, and you're going to continue to see violence go forward. So it really is an opportunity. It's a challenge, but it's an opportunity for the mayor to be able to do some great things. And so one grocery store or two grocery stores on the South Side does not heal the situations for what we're experiencing. Providing some housing, as you're saying, for certain individuals who are middle income does not heal the damage that is going on in our community. So yes, we do want a lot, we do need a lot, and it is required. When you have drastic situations going on like we do, then drastic solutions and drastic measures are called for, and that's exactly what we need. We need innovation, we need hope, and we need better leadership.
Now, you're saying it comes from the top, meaning the mayor, but let's also focus on the aldermen. What you think about their performance as well?
Well, I think you have a lot of aldermen who just rubber stamp everything that the mayor says. Now, one of the things that hurts me as a Black individual and as a Black man living on the South Side is that we have a lot of elected officials who are not looking out for the interest of Black people. They're looking out for the interest of others. And I think we have to hold our Black elected officials more accountable to look after our interests. And that is definitely not going on. We have it not only with the aldermen, but our Black legislators as well. They have a responsibility to look out after us, and that's not happened collectively. As a group, it's not happening, and individually, they may be doing parts in their neighborhoods and doing little small things, but definitely they have more power when they corporately come together and caucus together and leverage their influence, and I just don't see that being done.
Some people would say that the way you are talking, you might be considering running for a public office, sir. Is that true?
No, I'm not interested. I'm not interested in running for a public office, but I am interested in making sure that people get held accountable. And I am interested in making sure that our communities do better. I would not be telling you the truth if I did not tell you that I have a tremendous burning and a tremendous passion to want our neighborhoods to be better. And for so many years, our neighborhoods have been blighted and demolished and in lack. And so I want to do my part before I leave this earth to make sure that where God placed me on 66 and King Drive, that the neighborhood is better and that the residents there and the people there have a better lifestyle. And if I can grow that from just the neighborhood that I'm in to the city, the state, or the nation, then that would be a blessing. But I definitely want to do my little part to make life better for people.
So you're saying no for right now?
Yeah, I'm saying no for right now. The answer is totally no.
Okay, so you're opening room for possibility.
You know, there's always, I tell people I'm 99% sure that I would not run, but I reserve that 1% because I never know. Just because God gives you directions today He does not always reveal the total plan that he has for your life. So right now, at this moment, I believe that my calling and my obligation is to work as hard as I can for New Beginnings Church, Project Hood, and my family and my community. And I don't foresee running for any office. But if I ever felt that God was changing that or changing my heart toward that, then I would definitely take up that mantle and definitely do what it is that I felt led to do.
In combating crime to receive funding from Project Hood, you spent approximately 94 days atop a motel roof to raise money for a state-of-the-art youth center. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I spent 94 days on top of a motel to raise money to purchase a motel and to tear it down. It was not to build a community center. It was to purchase the motel. So we purchased that motel. We bought the land.
Wait. Could you hold on for 1 second? Because you said
Sure.
something that was totally key. You're saying it was not for a youth center at all, correct?
No, I'm saying that originally you asked me why I spent 94 days.
Yes.
Right. The 94 days on top of the motel was to purchase the motel and to buy the land so that we could build a community center. But those funds were not raised for a community center. Those funds were raised initially to buy or purchase that motel, to purchase that land, and to tear it down. And that's exactly what we did. Now we're into the next phase, and the next phase is acquiring resources so that we can build a community center.
Okay, so that goes into my next question, because there were some controversy regarding the funding of Project Hood. Tyler Perry heard about your story and donated approximately $90,000. Some of the critics are saying they're not seeing where the money is going to benefit Project Hood. You say to them, in order to clear the air, what?
I say to them, they don't know what the hell they're talking about. That's the first thing I say. The second thing I say is that Tyler Perry gave us $90,000 to purchase the motel property so that we could tear it down. That purchasing of that property was $450,000. So Tyler Perry gave $90,000 of that. And just to tear the property down and cover that land was another $100,000. So you're talking about $550,000 that was used to purchase a motel and to tear it down. That's in addition to the $50,000 that we put into the property so that we can still have a place that kids can play and do things. So now you're talking about $600,000. That's in addition to the taxes and the insurance that we keep on the property. And our financials are available for anybody to see who's a contributor of Project Hood. So when people make erroneous statements like Tyler Perry gave $90,000 for a community center, no, Tyler Perry gave $90,000 for a hotel to be purchased so that we could tear it down. And he's aware of that. And you know what really bothers me the most is I've been to Tyler Perry's house several times. I've spoken with Tyler Perry, and he has never, ever, ever asked me, what did you do with my $90,000? But yet Negroes who have not donated one dime or given toward our cause feel that they have the right to ask me what I did with someone else's money. It's none of their business, really. At the end of the day, Tyler Perry can ask me anytime he wants to. He can call me and we give him a financial report about what we're doing. And he still gives to our efforts. So for people to ask me questions like that, it really does upset me because they have no clue what they're talking about.
So why is there a mix-up with what's going on? And because one person have this point of view, the other, and you have yours, and you're saying, here are the facts. These are the facts here. How did it get misconstrued?
That's a great question. And first of all, I want to thank you for asking me, because I think if people were to ask, they would get clarity and understanding. And so I want to thank you for asking me and having enough courage to ask me the questions and giving me an opportunity to answer the questions. I appreciate that. So the reason why there's a misunderstanding, and I'm going to just be straight up, is that when I decided to do something different than the status quo or do something different than what everybody else would do as it relates to voting for a Republican and not going with the status quo and not going with Democrats that have, I believe, have ruined a lot of the things in the city of Chicago. When I decided to voice that and say that, and when I decided to say that, look, Black people, we've been loyal to the Democrats, but they haven't been loyal to us. We've been there for them, but they have not been there for us. We voted for them 96% of the time, or our votes go toward them. But our schools are the most horrible. Our neighborhoods are the most treacherous. Our economic system is the most deprived. When I started saying that, people got upset. And so the system kicked in and people kicked in and started just saying things to hate on me only because I was voicing my opinion. But where they make their mistake is that I'm not the type of individual that's going to lay down and not speak my opinion because somebody hates on me or dislikes me or starts to spread rumors on me or say or call me a sellout or a coon or something. That's not going to stop me from my agenda, and it's not going to stop me from promoting what I believe to be true. Because at the end of the day, I want to be able to answer to God for what I believe to be right. And so people have propaganda, put propaganda and misinformation out there because they're haters and because they're liars and because they didn't bother to even ask. That's, at the end of the day, that's what it's really all about.
Let's since you went there, let's go there. In politics, some people are still in disbelief because of your support of Republican Governor Rauner while he was running against former Illinois Governor Pat Quinn. Can you mention, because we voted 94% of the time for a Democrat, you just mentioned that. What led you to the primary reason to support Rauner? What was his ideology that was different from Quinn that made you say, he's the one that I'm going to support?
Absolutely great. First of all, what most people don't know is I have a degree in political science. This is I went to school for political science. I have a bachelor's degree in political science. So I've studied politics. I've studied government. It's not something that I just have done off the cuff. I have a degree in it. That's the first thing. The second thing is I am a Republican. I am not a Democrat. Always have been. And, I never shared that. I never told that. Because there was no need to. So when the opportunity presented itself to me to vote for Bruce Rauner, I did that because I believed that he would be better for our state than Governor Quinn, based upon the fact that Governor Quinn has let Mike Madigan and the Democrats run our state in the ground. We have one of the worst states in the union, and we have one of the worst economic states in the union, and that shouldn't be. We're in the middle of the country. We have all of this entry into our state. We have one of the greatest cities in the world, but yet we're at the bottom. And we should not be near Mississippi when it comes to economics, when it comes to education. And we are, and that is a travesty. And for that reason, I voted against Quinn and I supported Bruce Rauner. We need somebody who can economically turn things around. And we needed someone who could stand up to Mike Madigan without having to bow. That's it at the end of the day.
You said you're a Republican.
I am a Republican.
A lot of people associate you being Democratic. And you said that you kept that hidden. Why you just didn't say, to clear the air, to say, hey, I'm a Republican. I'm going to support my Republican people who's running for office. I respect their ideology. Instead of just keeping it hidden, maybe you wouldn't have this much pushback.
And maybe you're right. I don't know. You know, as hindsight and looking back, maybe I should have told people, hey, I'm a Republican. I just never really ever thought about it. It was no big deal to me. So I never really, it just never really crossed my mind to say, hey, I'm a Republican. It just didn't. And so I don't even know how to answer that, because I don't know if it would have been different if I had told everyone. I don't know, would they have responded differently? All I know is that I supported who I believed to be right at the time. And let me just say this too. Just because I'm a Republican does not mean that's all I vote for. I'm not the type of brother who just votes Republican straight ticket because people are Republican. No, I vote in the best interest of our community. So if there's a Democrat that I believe has the best interest for our community, I'll vote for them. If there is a Republican that I believe, or independent that I believe has our interest of our community, I'm going to vote for them. So I vote in the interest of the Black community. That's it, period.
Did you announce that you were a Republican to your congregation, and what was the response?
I think there was some positive response because my church, my members, they know me. And for them, it's not about whether I'm a Republican or a Democrat, because they know my heart. And I tell people this, before they knew I was a Republican, I was helping with the gangs, I was helping with the kids, I was helping in the streets, I was doing all that. I'm still that same person. Being a Republican does not change who I am. I was doing that as a Republican. And so, you know, my church loves me, I love my church. But you know, as I will know, that there are Black people who just will be intolerant to that. They're not. They think you ought to be a Democrat, and that's the way it ought to be. And if you're anything other than that, then you're a coon and a sellout. Unfortunately, there are people who have that type of ignorance in our world, and that's unfortunate.
You represent, I would say, approximately 95, 96, 97% of Democrats. And possibly they go to your congregation. Was there a primary reason or fear that you shield this?
No, because people close to me knew I was a Republican. The general public just didn't know, just like the general public does not know about most people. You know, if you ask most people what they are, you just assume that they're a Democrat because they're Black. And even that for me is a problem, that we're assuming that individuals have to think a certain way, be a certain way, and be a part of a certain party because of their race. That, even to me, doesn't taste good to me. I should be able, as a Black man, to have a difference of opinion in a free country and in a free society, a democratic society. I should not be looked upon and frowned upon because I have a different point of view, because I am a conservative, and because and some people believe because you are conservative, you're not compassionate. Well, I'm a Christian. I'll always have compassion. I'm a Christian, compassionate conservative. That's what I am. And I'm not afraid of that. I'm proud of that, and I stand on that.
Some critics have also, you're not the only one, but they refer to Reverend Meeks as the same way, as a hypocrite, a traitor, and the only reason you guys have supported Runner was because of money and greed.
Right.
This is your opportunity, because you're saying you're a Republican. Meeks is a known Democrat. Do you know any?
I don't know if he is a Democrat. He may be an independent. Again, that's a good point. I don't know what Meeks is. I don't know if he's a Republican, a Democrat, or independent. And that's the very point that I'm making. We should not assume just because a person is a Black person that they are a particular party. That is a wrong assumption that we should not have. And that's the assumption that I believe has gotten us nothing. Because if people are going to constantly believe they're all Democrats, they're going to vote Democrats, then we don't have to do anything for them. That right there has gotten us in trouble more than anything.
Reverend Meeks, who was a senator at the time, was a Democrat, and that's what kind of blindsided people a little bit. I understand where you're coming from, sir, but some people are just hello?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Okay, some people are just trying to fathom why out of the blue. I understand your part. You explained your part, but there were other ministers as well that was joining in out of the blue,
right,
to support Runner.
Right. So let me say this. I can't speak for Pastor Meeks. He would have to speak for himself. But I will say this on the behalf of pastors that I know support it. When people, again, another wrong assumption is for people to believe that in order to support someone, you're getting something out of it. I let people know I have one interest, and I want everyone to know this. My one interest in getting involved is to want to see Black neighborhoods do better. I live in the hood. I want it to be a better place. I want better schools for our children. I want these young Black brothers to have better jobs. I want the gun violence to stop. I want it to be peace. And so my first interest is Black people. I was born a Black man. I had to tell my son, unlike a lot of the brothers and sisters in Chicago who talk about racism, I experienced racism. I saw racism face to face. I was in Tennessee. I saw the Klan. I was in Muncie, Indiana, 16 miles from where the Klan started in Elwood. I watched the Klan march across a bridge. So I've come face to face with racism. I know racism very well. But I also know this, that I am a free Black man and a free thinking Black man, and I should have the right to vote whatever way I want to, as long as my interests for my people are at the top of my list. And for me, I don't know about any other pastor, but for me, I can't be bought, and no one can give me enough money to sell out, to do something to betray Black interests. I am for Black people, and I've shown that through my life, and I've shown that even through the things that I do now, and I'm going to continue to show it in the work that I do in the future. I'm for the Black community.
Also, how would you rate Governor Runner's performance? Now, you have this budget stalemate. We haven't had a budget for almost 3 years now. How would you rate his performance? And some people are saying that, it's a domino effect.
Right. Well, I would rate his performance as top notch, only because we need someone to stand up against the system. If we don't have someone to stand up against the system, we're going to continue to see our neighborhoods be last. One of the things that I appreciate about the governor is that he has publicly said and signed executive orders that there needs to be parity with African Americans getting contracts. One of the things that made me upset about Quinn and the Democrats that I spoke about is that with billions and billions and billions of dollars that were spent at the state with state contracts and all of these agencies and all of this money that was being spent, less than 1% of that money was going to African Americans. Now, you mean to tell me Black people can vote 95% Democrat and get less than 1% of billions and billions and billions of dollars? That, to me, is the most unfair, unjust, immoral thing that I've ever heard of. And so for me, the fact that the governor wants parity in contracts and that he wants to make sure that African Americans get more contracts, I can applaud that, because that's what I'm about.
However, there's a big however in your statement there, sir.
Okay.
You're talking about non-for-profit organizations that are suffering, that's geared towards the youth.
Yes.
And you have no budget, and these organizations are suffering. So if they shut their doors, guess what's happening? You have more African American youth out on the street.
Okay, and I can answer that. You're dealing with short-term issues over long-term issues. So over the long term, if we want better for our people, then we have to fight the present system, because the state of Illinois is broke. And that is what people are not understanding. And so I tell people at my church like this: if your checking account has $0, you can't keep writing checks. You've got to make some adjustments. Now, when you make those adjustments, do they hurt? Absolutely. Because now you've got to make the tough decisions. Can I afford to get Johnny these shoes? Can I send Diana to this event? Do I buy a steak or do I buy chicken? You have to make some tough decisions until you can get the budget in order, until you can get the finances in order, and until you can turn things around. And so for people to not understand that Illinois is broke and has no money and was going in the wrong direction, and we're ranked right there with Mississippi, that's what people have to understand. And so there has to be a changing of the guard. There has to be a changing of the system, and we have to do something different, because if we don't, it's going to be to the detriment long term of all of us, and that's what we do not want.
You're mentioning the detriment. There again is a however with that detriment. The detriment is the school is suffering. The detriment is, like I said before, a domino effect. Schools are closing. And I understand what you're saying. Okay, you have a whole bunch of Democrats in Springfield. You also have a whole bunch of Democrats on the local level. Why it kind of like goes into what it states in the Bible about faith and state, church and state. Why more ministers are involved in state political matters instead of church matters?
Again, being seminary trained, I'll tell people anytime that if you read the Bible, you're going to see politics throughout the Bible. Most of the writer of the Psalms, David, was not only the king, but he wrote most of the Psalms. There's always been an interaction between government and scripture. You're going to see Paul at odds with Rome. You're going to see government weave throughout. Here is the issue though. When we allow government to become our God, that's when we have the problem. But for me, I'm very clear about who my God is. And for me, I'm very clear about what I stand on. I believe in the scriptures. I believe in Jesus Christ and Jesus Christ alone. And scriptures are inerrant and truth for me. So for me, I'm very clear about my stance, but I'm also clear about making sure that people are responsible. I render unto God what is God's, and I render unto Caesar what's Caesar's. I tell people this: just because I'm a pastor doesn't exempt me from paying taxes. So if I can pay taxes, I should have a right as an individual to say something about how my tax dollars are spent. I pay taxes. So just because I'm a pastor, it does not exempt me. It does not get me out of it. I pay property taxes. My kids go to school. So I participate in society. So I should not be held to not be able to participate in society just because I'm a pastor. That's the most unfair thing I've ever heard.
And you're standing on that?
100%.
When we come back on IntellectualRadio.com/iHeartRadio station, more with Pastor Corey Brooks on the Intellectual Line. And we're back on the Drive at 5 on IntellectualRadio.com/iHeartRadio station. The Drive at 5 continues rolling around, and with some good conversation. Our guest on the intellectual line is Pastor Corey Brooks. He is the pastor of New Beginning Church of Chicago. He's also the CEO of Project Hood, which is an acronym for Helping Others Obtain Destiny, and a community leader. He's on the intellectual line. Corey Brooks, welcome back.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
No problem. One more question about governor runner and
Okay.
politics here, and then we're moving off the subject here. You're saying he's doing a phenomenal job. Others think it's not, they want him out, period. You look at Mayor Rahm Emanuel, which we spoke of earlier, and what he's doing. Can you compare that to what Governor Runner is doing? Because the state kind of like flows the money up to local. So can you?
How would you like
you're
me to
rating
compare it?
what I'm saying, sir. Let me ask the question. What I'm saying, sir, you're saying Governor Runner is doing a phenomenal job, correct?
I said I applaud him for the job that he's doing.
Okay,
Yeah.
you applaud what he's doing. Okay, and you're saying that Mayor Rahm Emanuel is doing a poor job. Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay. What Governor Runner is doing that Mayor Rahm Emanuel is not doing in City Council that can help us?
Very easy. I can answer that. One, he's standing up against Madigan, the system. And I really wish a lot of your listeners, and it's a conversation that you may want to have on the show, I don't know. But people need to know that there's a person who's been in office named Mike Madigan, who is basically the king. He's basically been in place for over 30 years, and he basically runs the legislation in Springfield. But here's what people don't understand. He also runs Chicago. He not only runs what's going on in Chicago, but he has a say-so against what's going on here in Chicago. And one of the things that the mayor could do is stand up against that machine, against Madigan, but he can't, because he knows the day that he does that, the day that he takes a stand against Madigan, the day that he takes a stand and say that he does not agree with him, will be the day that he's on the way out of office, or that he'll really have to fight to win. And so one of the things that he could do as the mayor, if he wants to make things better, is take a stand. So stand up against Mike Madigan and stand up for the people of Chicago. The reason why we're in this predicament is because the way that the state has been ran, and the reason why the school does not have the proper funding is because of all of these contracts that have been done under the rule of individuals who have not looked out for the state of Illinois, but have looked out for their own interests. And that's why we're in this predicament. And that's why Black people keep getting sold out and keep getting the short end of the stick, because the people like the mayor do not look out for us. I have never heard the mayor say that he wants parity for Black people. Never. I've never heard him say, matter of fact, I haven't heard any Democrats say it. And for me, that is appalling, that Black people can keep voting Democrat and no Democrat is sticking up for our rights and our economic wherewithal to say that we should have parity.
But can I
don't understand that.
Why
does it take a white Republican to stand up for Black people and say, you all should be getting these contracts? Because, if we got those contracts, what would happen? Our kids could be hired. What would happen? The gun violence would cease because our young Black boys would have some jobs. I'm on the board at the tollway, and I see all the money being spent. And I see all these white young males working on highways, doing jobs. And I wonder, why aren't our young black boys getting the same opportunity? Why aren't our young black boys getting the same jobs? Why aren't our young boys working on these construction sites? You know why? Because we have been sold out by Democrats, and they've kept the same stuff in play, and that's unfair. That's why I can't compare the two.
Okay. A follow-up question regarding of what you said. You talk, and some are your friends that are Democrat. Why not mention or talk to them about parity, your ideology, and adopt some legislation or resolutions to that effect? Have you done that?
Absolutely. I do every chance I get. When I talk to a black politician, I ask them, and I talk about parity. And here's the thing, when you talk to them individually, they will agree. But you can't get them to have enough courage to stand for us as a collective group against Madigan and say, hey, all of us agree that we should have more parity, and we're not going to vote for you or any of your causes until black people get more of a shot. That should be happening. And why it's not, I clearly don't understand.
Moving along here, we're going to talk about faith. Violence in Chicago, the presidential election, money and relationships. A lot of people are losing their faith in God, losing faith because their son got killed. Donald Trump was elected. Recent ban on Muslims and boyfriends cheating on girlfriends, girlfriends cheating on boyfriends. Why you believe people should hold on to their faith? Why they're losing faith and why they should hold on to faith?
Well, one of the reasons that people are losing faith is because we're putting faith in each other, not faith in God. And there's a big difference. As long as you put your faith in people, you're going to continually be let down. And the reason why is because people are human, which means that we have failings. We are mistake prone. We are sin oriented. There are no perfect humans on the earth. And so we have to continue to let people know that's why we need God. That's why we need faith. That's why we need Jesus Christ, because we are prone to commit acts that are not of God. And we are prone to do things that are not loving and that are not just. And so that's the reason why we have such a great need for God. And that's the reason why faith is so important, because I'm going to tell you this. It's hard enough trying to live right. I could only imagine how I would live if I didn't have God. So for me, I need God. I need faith because it's the only thing that keeps me stabilized. It's the only thing that keeps me wanting to do right. If I didn't have my faith and if I didn't have God, man, for me, I would be totally lost. And I think we have to express that to people. And I think the church has to do a better job at just being the church, making sure that we're reaching out to people and we're trying to show them the love of Christ. You know, it does us no good to stay within the four walls and just have church and sing a bunch of songs. We have to get out into the earth. The Bible talks about us being the salt of the earth and the light of the world. And it talks about how can you be a light if it's hid under a bushel? Nobody can see it. The church never was created or meant to be just 100% always inside a building. Most of the stuff that Jesus did, it was outside. And so for me and what I believe in having faith in God, but I also believe faith without works is dead. And so I try to express and I try to have our church express our faith by doing acts that show that we genuinely love God, but that we also genuinely love people. And I think when we show people that, their faith in God will increase. And I think that faith in God will win out in the end.
You mentioned good. In the Bible, it has some mention of good, but he never says good really in the Bible, only a small passage of it. But throughout the Bible, it states, follow the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit will lead you to righteousness. You don't have to be good. You just have to follow the Holy Spirit. Could you explain to our listening audience and speak to the people on intellectualradio.com/iHeart radio station who are hurting out there on how to build their faith and encourage them? Because a lot of people, you say faith. Okay, have faith in other people. That's the wrong thing, what you're saying. But how to build their faith and how to encourage them.
Right. I really do believe that at the end of the day, that we have to look to God, and God has to provide the solutions. And so when you talk about being good, none are good. None are righteous. That's what the Lord says. That's why we need him. And so individuals who are listening to us today need to understand that one of the reasons that we have this faith is because we have such a great need for the Lord, because in and of ourselves, we can't do it alone. We can't do it on our own. And that's the reason why it's good for us to bear the fruit of the Spirit, try to live with love and joy and peace and long suffering and kindness. Those are the type of things that we need to be trying to display every single day in our lives. You know, the Bible talks about in Corinthians, the Bible talks about in Corinthians that if you do all of these things and don't have love, what difference does it make? And so we got to continue to show love, and we got to continue to do our very best. And I want to encourage people that regardless of what is going on in the world, whether it's Donald Trump, whether it's some sexual act by a pastor, whether it's some behavior by a believer that is not good, I want to continue to tell people, keep your eye on the Lord. Keep your eye on Jesus Christ. Follow him. Keep your eye on the one who is able to satisfy you and do for you what no other man can do. And in that is where you'll find your hope, and that is where you'll find your help, and in that is where you'll find true healing. Keep your eyes on Jesus at all times.
A lot of pastors say God is able. God will make a way. God does. He doesn't make no mistakes. However, I do right, I get hurt. I go to work, I get hurt. I am loyal, I get hurt. Yeah. And constantly I'm seeing people who are doing wrong being victorious while others are being hurt. What you say to those people, sir?
Well, I say this to people that Jesus said, in this world, you will have tribulations. In other words, you're going to have trials. You're going to have suffering. You're going to have heartaches. But also the Bible talks about how God mends the brokenhearted. And I think when people have these hurts, instead of running away from God, that we have to run to God. And we have to stop looking and comparing what the wicked do in their prosperity, because the Bible says they won't always prosper. They'll soon be cut down. They'll soon wither as the grass. And so we can't base what other people are doing, and because we really don't know at the end of the day what God is up to. But what we can do is continue to place our faith in God, continue to trust wholly in him and him alone, and continue to believe God for the best. And when we do that, that's where we'll find everything that we need to make our life the best life that it could possibly be. So I want to encourage people, again, keep your eye on the Lord. Don't detour. Don't get distracted. Stay focused on Jesus Christ.
Actually, we're running out of time. How can people get in contact with you on intellectualradio.com/iHeart radio listeners? Get in contact. I said that in reverse, but okay. Get in contact with you, sir.
They can New Beginnings Church. So it's nbcchicago.tv, nbcchicago.tv, or they can reach me at projecthood.org, projecthood.org. Either one of those two websites, they can reach us, and I'm always on Facebook and Twitter, and people can reach out to me there as well. And I want to say to you, thank you for having me on the show. Thank you for asking me tough questions and not letting me off the hook, but also giving me a chance to answer them. I want to say thanks.
No problem, sir. Next time I want you in the studio, okay, sir?
I promise you, next time I'll be there.
All right. Thank you so much. That's going to do it for us on the Drive at 5 on intellectualradio.com. Thanks to Earl Winfrey, our executive producer, Wanda, who is always behind the scenes, and Rhea Ray Harris, who is up next with Straight No Chasers. Everyone have a great week. Thanks again, Pastor.